Angela, we are just super excited to have you today. Before I have you get started, Angela has agreed to let me interrupt her. So, guys, anytime during the time, if you have questions, I will be monitoring the chat screen and I will stop Angela and get your questions answered. So, without further ado, Angela, they're all yours.
All right, I love it. Thank you so much, Jonas, for the warm welcome. Yeah, so I know when we talk attorney business, a lot of people aren't probably jumping up and down and saying, "Ooh, let me talk to attorneys." I think there's just sometimes this image out there that attorneys are, they're just untouchable. They're hard to get a hold of, and that maybe they just exist on a little bit different plane. But the good news is they put their pants on one leg at a time, just like the rest of us. And this was an area I focused on a few years ago. I could see the writing on the wall right after COVID. It had some of our best years ever. And then all of a sudden, I'm sure you guys all saw it too, the business started pulling back and just trickling down, trickling down. And I decided I needed to find a sustainable channel of accounts where I could just count on the business coming in. Sorry, one second. And so for I was kind of noodling on this and I'm like, okay, now unfortunately this is where my first thought went. And I went, divorce. A lot of people, when there's financial struggles, there's divorce. It's just a fact of life. Unfortunately, the statistics are pretty high. And so I initially took a divorce course, a training that was taught by attorneys. There was a couple judges in there as well, where we literally did stuff hands-on, where we got to see actual divorce proceedings in court, and the attorneys were teaching us their language, their lingo, what they love, what they don't love, and how to market to them, frankly. And so it was a pretty expensive course. It took about a year, but at the end of it, it turned out I was picking up these divorce files left and right, which was great until it wasn't great. And the reason I say it wasn't great is because divorce is hard. It's hard on the families. It's hard on pretty much anybody in that within the blast zone, so to speak. And it's really hard on you as the realtor. And I decided after doing that for about 18 months, a high volume of divorce files, that I just did not enjoy divorce. And in the meantime, I had accidentally, really what happened is I think one or two of the attorneys had said, "Hey, I have this case. It's not a divorce one, but I'm handling their probate and they have to sell the house. And so can you help with this?" And I said, "Sure, absolutely, not a problem." And to back it up, I'll share with you our process when we list a home. When we list a home, um, I am blessed in that my husband was a homeowner's claim rep for 20 years. So when we go into a home, he's now retired. He's been working with me solely for the last 5 years. We can go into a home and what looks like disaster to everybody else, he's worked with contractors for years and years and years. And we handled these one or two probate files, and the people were so grateful, like literally nearly tears in their
Hi.
eyes. Oh, sorry.
Oh,
So they were so grateful. It They had to sell. So there was no, one party trying to not sell or not participate or not be, that was trying to hijack the whole transaction. Because in divorce, sometimes we would see a lot of that. Instead, we were all playing on the same team. They had to sell. They were eager to sell. They were so grateful and thankful for the assistance because what you'll find is, at least for us here in Arizona, most of the folks that are going through this process, their heirs or their whoever's inheriting essentially is out of state. So they don't have anyone. They have no boots on the ground, and so we were able to go in and really take on a more hands-on role, which turns out we loved. It refilled our cup. It made us feel good. And at the end of the day, we knew the home had to sell, and we had people that were thankful and grateful to work with us, which was such an incredible different mindset. So I said, listen, we need to do the shift. We know how to talk to attorneys. We know what to do to secure their business, and we know how to keep their business. And so that's where we ended up developing more of this attorney program. We have, I want to say, about It's not a ton, you guys. We have like only 6 or 7 attorneys at this moment that are channel accounts for us. But I will tell you, it equates to at least 2 transactions a month for us on average, month in, month out, month in, month out. How many of you guys, could get excited if you just had one source of business sending you 2 deals a month every single month? And they know you, they like you, they trust you, and more importantly, they tell their clients, you better do whatever they say. It's amazing. So, working with attorneys, it's not a cold lead generation. There's definitely a trust transfer there, and you have to earn it. When it comes to working with probate attorneys, or a lot of times it's not. I'll back up. There's estate planning attorneys. Estate planning attorneys basically are helping folks get their paperwork, their life on paper in order before anything happens, before anybody's passed away or needs to be moved to, maybe a dementia care center or anything like that. And then there are probate attorneys. The probate attorneys, they tend to work 2 separate things. A lot of estate attorneys don't want to deal with probate stuff. Probate is more where the court's involved, someone has passed, it was not clear who's supposed to be handling what. And so the family often will try and figure out one person, and then they'll apply, that with their attorney to the court to get that all put in order. So some of our folks that we work with are estate planning, because here's what happens. They did all the planning. So when someone does pass, the family often calls that attorney's office and says, well, I have all the paperwork. I know it's in order, but really, what do I do now? Because a lot of people, we just don't know. We don't go through this often enough to just know what to do next. And so that's when that attorney's office will have that conversation with them and say, well, are you guys planning to keep the home? Because they have options, right? If the planning was in place ahead of time, versus probate, almost always, I'd say 99% of the time, the home is um, has to be sold. So if they don't want to keep the home, which they usually don't, then they say, listen, call this real estate office. They're going to walk you through everything. So attorneys are referring people to us that, they're in grief. They're often out of state. I will tell you the number one response we hear is they are overwhelmed. Because keep in mind, not only are they going through this emotional roller coaster, but I don't know if any of you have handled anything from the loss of a parent or a loved one, but it's like learning a new language and a full-time job. And you don't know where half the pieces are. Even if your family member did such a great job putting it all in one place, there's still stuff. I mean, how many of you have ever reset your computer and got logged out of all your passwords, and you spend like the next 4 hours trying to figure out how to get back in? Well, this is a family member having to figure this out for someone that's no longer there while going through grief. So they're very grateful for someone competent that can step in. You're not just selling a house in this situation. You are absolutely solving a legal and logistical problem during one of the hardest seasons of their life. And so attorneys are very aware of it. With them, for the attorney's offices, we're positioning ourselves as a risk reduction partner. Uh, Attorneys tend to be somewhat analytical, and they're always concerned about worst case scenarios, worst case situations. So we want to make sure that they clearly know that we're we're mitigating risk. Um, Number one at all costs for them is reputation protection. That's a really big deal for attorneys, and that we are reliable through this process. Um, so I'll talk about this in a minute, but it's your charisma, realtors. I know we tend to be very charismatic. You're not getting anywhere with the attorneys with that, and they could care less about your production and your hustle. They have very focused other areas that we'll go into. Um, I know a lot of times, and maybe not you guys, but at least where we are, a lot of agents want to go in and they're going to pound their chest. I'm in the Diamond Club, and we do this, and I have a team of 37, and I'm going to be very candid with you. Attorneys think realtors are gross. I know it's crazy, but they do not have a very high expectation, or I think that we are ethical, to be very candid with you. It was shocking to me. I was like, what? everybody's always heard, the jokes about attorneys, but attorneys really don't like real estates for the most part. And I think it's just because they've had too many bad tastes in their mouth, a lack of accountability, a lack of communication, and frankly, they are disgusted by the ego. So just kind of keep that in mind. Um, so probate sales, that's usually court oversight. There's often like a fiduciary, well, there is always a fiduciary duty there. There might be bond considerations where, so when you go through the probate process, whoever's been appointed, and in Arizona, we call it a personal representative. I know when I handled my dad's probate in Washington, I was administratrix. So there's different words that they use to identify who that person is depending on your state, and you'll want to find out what that is, and what that lingo is for your state. You don't need to know everything, but you definitely want to know who's appointed, what that is called when they're appointed. So in Arizona, you're a personal representative, and as part of that, you have to sign a bond, and that bond is saying that you're going to do certain things legally and ethically. Um, so with attorneys, you want to borrow to get to know. I want to skip this part. I want to kind of go back to it. I'm not going to skip it because I'll miss it. Here's the thing with attorney's office is it can be hard to get past the gatekeeper. And I went about this the wrong way for a little bit until I took this course. But then what I realized is the gatekeepers are the neck that turns the head. So you are not going to get into that attorney's inner circle unless you get to know their paralegal, their front desk folks. And those are the ones that you're actually seeking to build relationships initially. Um, it's like Rebecca, she probably has a lot of power whether we get an opportunity to speak with Jim or not, because she's the gatekeeper for Jim and his calendar and what's going on. Now, to back that up, before you're going out and getting to know and build these relationships, which I'll talk more about with these attorneys' offices, if you know a CPA, a financial advisor, someone on a probate staff, or another attorney that you already have a working relationship with, number one thing I would do is ask if you can go to lunch with them, explore this topic more, and say, who do you know? I love if someone says they work for an attorney's office, or they can refer me to another attorney. I don't care who it is. I want to meet with that particular person if it has anything to do with an attorney's office. And here's why. I don't know if you guys know, but one of the number one most common referrals that attorneys get is from another attorney. Because, have you ever had a client that was going through divorce or bankruptcy, or, needed a real estate attorney? They all call the one attorney they know. But most attorneys' offices try to specialize in a specific area. So the guy that's doing family law, he's getting 12 calls a week for bankruptcy, divorce, probate, you name it. So they basically keep their Rolodex of people that they refer all of those out to. And interestingly enough, attorneys, just like realtors, can do an attorney to an attorney referral fee. So it behooves them to make sure that A, most important is their reputation. They're referring that client to someone they know, like, and trust, another attorney's office, but B, there is a financial opportunity for them as well. So I want to know any and all attorneys. I don't care if they do bankruptcy. I don't get a lot of bankruptcy calls from anybody, but that bankruptcy attorney, I guarantee you, has a network of other attorneys that I may want to know. Or he might get that call from his client that says, "Hey, I know you handled our bankruptcy 5 years ago, but grandma, passed, and now we have to do something with her house. What should I do?" I want that relationship there with that bankruptcy attorney to say, "You know what? You need to call this real estate team." So borrow your trust to start with whenever possible. But then we started what we call a milk run. A lot of people call it pop buys. For us, our milk run was a monthly pop by to attorneys. We don't spend a ton of money on it. Our budget is like $5 an attorney's office, but we do put a little postcard that has like the six main bullet points of what we can do, and I'll go into that. And then call us, and then like for this month we'll be doing Girl Scout cookies, and you can trust us just like the Girl Scouts. It'll have some cutesy little logo or slang on there with an item. So sometimes, like this month, it's Girl Scout cookies. As we get closer to summer, by my or spring, it'll be like a packet of seeds for, we want to grow our business with you. It's nothing, you guys, that we spend a ton of time or effort. Really, what the goal of our pop by is to get that opportunity to swing by the attorney's office to chit chat with the staff. We're not trying to connect with the attorney when we do these pop-bys. And some of you might be surprised, but I don't do them. I tend to be more of a very direct D personality. I hate chit chat. It's just not me. But I have a buyer's agent on our team that she's just loves that kind of stuff. I mean, by the time she comes back, she knows their shoe size, their favorite color, and what restaurant they go to every Tuesday for tacos. And so that's her jam, right? We actually call her the sizzle. She also does all the gifting because she just loves all that stuff. And so she goes by and she builds a relationship with the paralegal, the front desk. And we usually do pop bys with a new attorney's office if we're cultivating someone new for 3 to 4 months before we ever ask for the appointment. Our goal first is just some familiarity. And then finally, on month 5, 6, we start asking for an appointment with that attorney. So we're very respectful of the admins and the gatekeepers who really they're the ones that control the case flow. And if you get the thumbs up from them, then usually the attorneys themselves just say pick somebody off the vendor list and they're not super involved in that part of it. The paralegal is. So we learn names, we remember preferences, we treat them like partners. If we know that, they don't like mint, but last year they loved the Samoas, we're going to make sure we have an extra box for them to take home so they don't have to share it with the office, that kind of thing. We keep notes on them after each pop by. We do our homework. We review their website. We want to know their practice focus, their case types. We walk in super informed about them, not to impress them with us. Our goal is to basically do some cyber stalking and find out as much as possible. Um, another, before I go into that, and then once we get that appointment, um, with the attorney, and usually we do get that appointment after month 5 or 6. I do go. So I am the head of this. So she goes with me, so everybody recognizes her, and then I go with her. Excuse me, I go and we ask that attorney for just 15 to 20 minutes of their time. And with that, um, here's what not to do. This is where I think most agents would mess this up. And I know before I learned from these attorneys, I probably would have done the same thing. You cannot go in to sit with this attorney and talk about your production. You don't pitch your team. You don't control the conversation at all, and you don't defend the industry because you'll be surprised. You start chatting with them and they're going to say, oh, and this and this and this. And you're going to want to say, oh, that was a one off or that was that person. It's not what we do. We're not defending anything. What you do, and this is huge, this is super important, is you ask the attorneys, what's been your experience working with realtors? What tends to go wrong? Where do you see friction in the estate sales? And then just stop talking. Take notes, listen, don't justify. And then after listening, there's only 3 things, unless they ask you a specific question, there are only 3 things that you are going to go back and share as bullet points, unless there's just something so critical that you have to, switch gears. But here's the 3 things that we go in and we share that matter. First is we, and this is up, if I don't know how you guys do it, but for us with certain files, our attorney files, we offer a vendor coordination with payment at closing. We work with a lot of vendors because we do such a high volume. They just trust us. They know we've vetted the seller and the home, that the home has proceeds there, and they will let us get the work done if something needs to be done and be paid out at closing. So in these situations, a lot of times the homes need some work. Guess what? Mom or dad, maybe had some medical issues. There's been some deferred maintenance on the home. They never tell the kids. They don't want anybody to know that they're having medical problems. So all of a sudden, the person that's the personal representative gets to the house and they go in there and they go, oh my gosh, mom and dad had turned into a hoarder, or there was this leak that's just been going on for who knows how long. We've had like three of them where they accidentally started fires and things happened and sometimes the kids didn't know. The one I'll never forget, the neighbor came out and he goes, oh, you're at Fireball Phyllis's house? Fireball Phyllis? Phyllis had had three fires and the daughter didn't know about any of them. So there's potentially some things going on with these houses. And I know that might sound overwhelming to the agent, but we look at it as it's even more opportunity for us to shine, to be that problem solver, to take that overwhelming, where do I even start with this, off of their plate for us to handle it for them. And I'll go into more of that in a second. So we remove those burdens from the families. We keep the cases moving forward. I'm going to talk about this in a little bit, but I don't know if you've noticed, I keep saying cases. Attorneys don't do deals and they don't have transactions. You must mimic their language. They have cases. So whenever you're talking with them, you're always talking about a case. And it's always, Attorney Smith or Mr. Smith, until you get to that familiarity where they go, you know what, call me Kate. So the second thing we do. So first one was vendor coordination with payment at closing, because a lot of times the equity is tied up in the home itself, or maybe they just don't really have great access to the bank account yet, and they're still working through some of those different particular pieces of it. So when we say vendor coordination, we are only suggesting them things that would need to be done to list the home at retail value. So we're not going in and saying, well, there's laminate counters and, you'd make a huge chunk more if we went with granite. No, we're saying there's an active leak. This leak has to be fixed. Like we cannot put this home on the market without cleaning up that leak. And so we need to just have a plumber come in and resolve that issue. So the second thing we do is early equity and lien verification. Now we are in a state here in Arizona where we use title companies. And with that, they cost money to get, to do some of this, the lien checks, but our title company doesn't charge us to do that. So as soon as we get the address, we immediately send over to title and we say, hey, we want to verify if there's any liens on this property, anything that would be a closing surprise or, a problem of protecting the proceeds. Because a lot of times in these situations, they have no idea that mom and dad, they knew they got a new AC. They didn't know they financed it. They knew they got solar. They thought it was a one time they paid, $5,000 and they have no idea there's a $50,000 solar lien on there. And in some situations, these attorneys are being paid out of the proceeds from the home. So it's very important to them to make sure if they're going to do this work, that there's equity actually in the home. And I'm sure you guys have never ever had it happen where whomever is, researching their estimate thinks the house is worth like 500,000 more than what it's worth. And so the attorneys are very realistic that we know what the home is really worth and we can find out those underlying potential costs or problems so we can give them an actual net number to work with and make sure that it all is going to be a smooth process for them through the closing of the home if anybody's being paid out of it. And the last thing, the third thing, so the first one was vendor coordination, second was lien verification for them. The third one is no dual agency ever. Now, I don't know where you guys are at. I'm in Arizona. It is very legal in Arizona for us as agents to help both the sellers and the buyers. That's why attorneys think that we are dirty. They think it's unethical and wrong and sleazy for us to double dip, as they would say. They also don't believe that there is a possibility to be completely impartial if you're handling both sides. So the third thing we always share with them is, listen, I know you probably know it's legal in Arizona to work both sides of the file. I want to assure you, our attorney files, we will never, ever handle both sides of that file. If someone comes to us looking to purchase it, we will make sure they're with another agent. It avoids conflict, it avoids perception of impropriety and any blurred fiduciary lines. And I'll tell you what, an attorney will pay attention because they've never heard a real estate agent say that to them. And for me, it's more important to build the respect of that attorney's office and, get those continued referrals than is because I maybe missed a double side on one deal. Okay. Let's see, red flag prevention. What to stop before it becomes a problem. Oh, the other thing. So this is not part of my one-to-one. So I keep my one-to-one with the attorney that short. I ask them if they have any questions. If they don't, then a lot of times we continue. We go back to our pop buys, and I'm following on social media. If I'll do the whole chat GPT, you guys, find out, oh, they're a hiker, oh, they're alumni of University of Oregon. If I see something going on, I'll pop them over a little message. Hey, I don't know if you saw, but Oregon's playing in town next month, or just what you would do with anybody you're trying to build as a channel account or a VIP, right? Just real little reasons that make sense within what is aligns with them if I have a reason to pop by or to say something. And it usually doesn't take very long before we pick up some business. So the other thing that attorneys, once they start working with you, so when I get a first file, I got a new attorney's office last week, I'm sorry. And she was shocked because the paralegal called over and she said, here's the deal. Um, we have this weird situation. We don't know what to do. The family member's squatting. What would you suggest? So I gave her some strategies, some suggestions. And then she says, okay, if I think we're going to have you take this on because we have to sell the home. Um, what does that look like? And so communication is really important to them. Um, in many instances, the attorneys are billing for every single email, every single called and left voicemail. There's a 15-minute bill. And so we are very cognizant that we don't want to do anything to rack up the client's attorney bill. And while the attorneys love billable hours, they also don't look to abuse that either. So with her, I was able to let her know here's usually what we do unless you instruct us otherwise. We will get the home prepped and we'll let you know when we hit the market. Then we will notify you when we're under contract. And then approximately 10 days before closing, we'll ask you if there's any additional information we need to know about, any directions regarding payment, because in some of these files, the proceeds are sent to the attorney's office. In some of them, they go directly to the personal representative. So we just want to make sure before the home closes and the money is in somebody's account that we have verified with the attorney's office. So we're not usually talking to the attorney's office more than 4 times through the transaction. And it makes our job a lot easier because I think some people think, well, with an attorney file, it's going to be so much more complicated, more convoluted. It really isn't. 95% of the time, we're just having the direct conversation with the one person that has been appointed as that personal representative. There might be 6 or 7 other family members, but we don't have to talk to them about anything. We're talking with our one person we've been instructed to work with. And then if there is a challenge or an issue, I haven't had it happen very often, but the great news is we can almost always call the attorney's office if something's going on, and they will immediately back us up. I've yet to have an attorney's office not say, listen, they know what they're doing. This is how it works. You need to follow their instructions. So, speaking of attorney's offices and sometimes clients, is every now and then you get someone where, maybe grandma passed and the niece or nephew is a realtor. Well, in many situations, that niece or nephew wants to pop up and say, oh, I'll handle it. I'll handle it. Well, most of the attorney's offices in the probate courts would consider that a conflict of interest. It's a conflict of interest because one party or one person within the family, there's more of a financial advantage, right? Plus, there is no longer a non-biased party who's handling that part of it. So there's a couple different conflicts of interest. One that works in our favor if the attorney's office has a friend or family member who is a realtor, they can't and won't refer them. I have one attorney's office that sends, I don't know, we probably did like 10 to 12 deals for them last year, closed deals. And the attorney, her mom is a very active and thriving real estate agent. She can't send her mom any of the transactions. It's a conflict of interest. So she sends them over to us. Same thing if the family member of the family that's passed we just let them know it's a conflict of interest, and the attorney's office will almost always support that. Um, and so there's that side of it as well. The other thing is we have to be very careful to avoid in conflicts is your investor buddy or your friend or family member that thinks they're going to get a deal because maybe the home isn't, hasn't been completely updated. And let's just say retail wise, it'd be 550, but your investor friend's going to buy it for 500. That's not going to go well. You are going to lose that trust in that relationship. The attorneys want to know that there is no perception of impropriety, anything along those lines. I have one investor in particular. He gets so upset that I don't send him deals from our probate files. And you know what? His one or two deals that he may purchase a year with me is not worth me blowing up my relationship with my attorney's offices that trust me to just make sure that home is put together in a place that I can put on the market retail and get its best value for our folks. But that's also the other nice part, you guys. If the home is worth 550, all day long on the market, these sellers they go, okay, put it on for 550. They're not going, no, let's put it on for 585 and work our way down because that's what we should do. Almost never, ever, ever do we have those kinds of conversations. So buyer side conflict, let's see. Jonas, do we have any questions or anything so far?
Not yet. If anybody does have any questions, feel free to put them in the chat screen and I will stop Angela right away.
Okay, perfect. The other thing, so I talked about language just a little bit. We're talking about cases, not deals. Here in Arizona, personal representative of the estate. The other thing is, once in a while, if you are chatting with a new attorney or you want to drop them something off after, I usually bring this when we get the one-to-one in person at their office. I always go to their office for the one-to-one. Um, I will take a CV or curriculum vitae. So attorneys don't use resumes. They use CVs. And if you're going, what the heck, you can just do a chat GPT, put your resume in it, and it will convert it to a curriculum vitae for you or CV so that when you go in, you have something. But basically, when you're with them, you're looking to mirror any terminology, signal respect, never never question them or suggest that they don't know something because attorneys have their own ego. They will stop referring you if they think you're giving legal advice. They will stop referring you, and we haven't had this situation, thank goodness. But um, before I tell you why they stop referring you, what's happened with our attorneys is they have become friends, good friends, friends that, at least once a quarter, we're going out to dinner together or lunch together. Or if there's some event going on, hey, are you going to that event? I'm going to go too. Do you want to carpool? It's interesting for attorneys in that I feel like they have a fairly similar model to us as realtors in many ways. They are high producing, they make a lot of money. Um, they have staff often, usually, we usually have admin or buyer's agents. It's a very stressful job in many situations. Sometimes people don't like attorneys, sometimes people don't like real estate agents. And so they're always curious. But one of the things I have found with our attorneys and the relationships I've built is they're fascinated by real estate. They always want to try and figure out a way to make their money work more or better. So while they may be heavily invested in, like stock markets and things like that, they're often very interested in knowing how real estate's doing. Maybe they want rental houses. Maybe they just, the nice thing with attorneys too is as their practice grows, they often move up in home, which has been phenomenal. So I have gotten the opportunity, I mean, just off the top of my head, so I had one attorney, I helped him sell like his $600,000 house to buy like a $1.4 million house. Of course, he doesn't want anybody to know that I'm the one that helped him. They are very hush hush about their private life. I have one right now, I'm helping to sell her grandma's house. I have another one that his mom was just moved to like assisted living care. I'm going to be selling her house. I have another one from a different practice that we just closed that the partner, who I've never had anything to do with, She was going through a separation divorce. She didn't even want her partner to know, but she asked the paralegal and said, who is it we send all our stuff to? And had me handle because she knew I would never say anything to the partner. They're very, very private. Um, so the cool thing though is they've become good friends and I get little inside hints and tips of what they're seeing and what to be careful about. Plus, if you're doing business for them, guess what? That's one more attorney out there that can't come after you for anything because it would be a conflict. Not that I've had any reason to be concerned with that, but the more attorneys I know out there and have a relationship, the better, in my opinion. So attorneys will shop.
Angela, on that note, real quick, couple of quick
Yes.
questions. Do you belong to any attorney groups for networking?
Great question. I actually am going to bring that up in just a second.
Okay, and then we'll go to number two.
Yes.
Okay, I hope I'm reading this right, Braden. What is the scope of deferred maintenance that you do on behalf of the seller? Does this include painting, flooring, etc.? Are there cosmetic updates done in general?
Great question. Yeah, so we go in. The first thing we do is we tell them, listen, we're not going to give you any information until we get access to the home. So we go in. My husband and I both go together because he's looking at it from the perspective of any repairs needed, vendor coordination, et cetera. I'm looking from the perspective of what can we sell this house for, days on market, et cetera, for my part of the report. So we evaluate if there's, like we have had hoarder houses. What all has to be removed? Do they need an estate sale or do they need a junk out? Almost always, I will tell you, 90% of the time, they need one or the other. And a lot of them are hoarder houses. Not hoarder to the gross, nasty, like on TV hoarder, but hoarder to, like we had one recently where they had over 100 Amazon and Temu boxes in one bedroom that had never been opened. And then you would open it and it would be like 1,500 pieces of a dongle that go to nothing. Like the one box had like 12 garden hoses in it. That was it. So you know what I'm saying? Um, but so we do number one for sure, anything that has to happen, like, okay, we got active leaks. We have, there's clearly tiles that are off the roof. The AC's not running. Those are non-negotiable. We've got to get that up and running. Secondly, if there is an opportunity where it's like, okay, we have one right now where somebody's cat just on the landing of the stairs, not the whole stairs, just on the landing, had destroyed the carpet on the. So it's like $2,000, but we're having to get all the landings repaired as well as like the edges of carpet where you go into a room, but not all the carpet. So we are evaluating, yes, some of that. Sometimes a lot of times it is painting. Sometimes it is flooring, not that often. But we try to keep it to just the bare bones that we have to do to get the home on the market and not on the market at like a wholesale price, but on the market at a retail price, if that makes sense. Um, we try to make sure there's never more than $10,000 basically in potential repair costs that need to be handled through the probate. More often than not, I tell you it's within usually 2,500 bucks. It's usually nothing crazy. It almost always is. It needs a major landscape cleanup. It needs a deep clean. It needs a junk out. Those are almost always the top three things that have to happen. So you have to have really good relationships with those particular vendors. So then we come back the next day. We don't even send our write up to the attorneys. We send our write up to the personal representative. I use a program called High Note, so that I can see what they opened and how many times they opened it and when they opened it. And so the first section has their comparables, their CMA essentially. The second section has their net sheet out the door. The third section has the homework list. And some of that homework is stuff, often it's just stuff that we're going to do. And then the rest has like our reviews and testimonials. Now, with that, those items, we tell them, listen, we are going to get the quotes and we're going to share the quotes with you. And if you approve it, and only if you approve it, will that we then have those items handled before we put it on the market. We never ever go and just have the work done, if that makes sense. And so most of the representatives, that's really important to them because there is, especially all the people from the East Coast, they are just a level of distrust. They always think they're going to get taken. And so then we get the quotes, we bring it back, and then they're calling like 12, 15 people once in a blue moon. Usually they just go with whatever we say. And they're like, I can't even get anybody calls back. We're like, welcome to Arizona. You could call 10 people to give you a landscaping quote. Two will show up and maybe one will give you an actual price. Like it's just, we are the Wild West out here. If you don't have vendor connections, you are sunk. And that's one of the biggest reasons the attorneys love working with us because they don't want their person stressed out over they can't find a carpet cleaner because they live in Florida and mom and dad's house has to be cleaned before, the carpet has to be cleaned before we can put it on the market. So, does that help? Did he have any more on that? You're muted, Jonas. Okay. Okay. So don't give legal advice, no oversharing with errors, no pushing, just price reduction, price reduction, price reduction. Like they want to know that a valid effort was put in to sell this house at retail. Now, if it's clear price reductions needed, nobody's going to give you beef over it. But it's not one of those things where we go, oh, it didn't sell in 10 days, move the price. Didn't sell in 10 days because a lot of times they own it outright free and clear. But the attorney's offices, at the end of the day, especially if it's a probate, the court reviews it. They need to know that a valid effort was made to sell the home at retail. We don't double end transactions. Sometimes there is situations where we need to secure the property, so maybe it needs to be rekeyed. So we assist with that, making sure we're just there to make that happen. A lot of times we need to confirm there was even insurance, verify utilities. A lot of times somebody has to be there. A lot of times we're just the person that somebody on the team is there, right? Because you have to have a body there and they just can't do it. And you would be amazed at how just a couple hours of our time, in our team's time, just creates a situation where they go, I can't believe you do this. We had probably 3 times last year where a car transport had to be done because a lot of times there's a car that's left and it has great memories of mom or dad. And so they want the car sent back to Michigan. And so now there's a whole car transport thing. Well, we don't do the quoting for the car transport, but someone has to be there to sign that the car is being picked up. And they give you, I don't know if you guys have ever done this, they give you a window of like 4 to 5 days. And then once you're within 24 hours, they give you a window of like 4 hours. And these folks can't fly here and just be waiting around for days on end. So we're not making any money doing this. We don't sell cars, but we go and we're there to sign off so they can get that car back. And that means it's a huge thing for them because if they want that car back, there's some solid other stuff going on there besides finances. We also look for opportunities if we do have to do a junk out and they don't want to make any money off of stuff because furniture is pennies on the dollar. We try to always find where we can donate to a veterans organization, or we have one here called Sunshine Anchors that goes for foster children. And that means a lot to these people to know that mom and dad stuff is going for good benefit, good use. So anyhow, and then I already mentioned we establish, the vendor scope, the timeline, the office trust, the peer positioning of these are people you're going to become friends with. We put on usually once a quarter some sort of business class for our attorneys or our business owner sphere. And they love this. They want to know, like when we put on a Google business page, how to, keep your profile for free as like the number one profile out there, or how to do simple things to boost your Google business profile. They love the hints and tips and things that we are taught in coaching, right? Because they're business owners. They want to make their ROI better. They want to learn how to market without having to just do pay per clicks and things like that. You'd be surprised at how interested the attorneys are when they become friends with you, are in how we do business and how we build that natural, um, from one current client referral to the next client to the next one, those kinds of things. Um,
Got a
so
couple more questions here. Are you okay
yes,
if I
sir.
hit you with them?
Go
Okay.
for it.
Do you ever have situations where they would rather price less and it is shared with investors to make it quicker versus repairs and retail price?
Yes and no. My yes, and all your attorneys, every answer question you ask them, they're going to say yes and no. So the yes is We often get at least 2 to 4 times a year where the probate process took long enough and nobody was paying the mortgage that is literally in foreclosure. Or it's going to, here it goes to an auction on the courthouse steps. So I had twice last year where one time I had, I think, 13 days to get something closed. And I had another one where I had like 17 days to get something, a decent offer and get it closed. The attorneys prefer that it closes and sells rather than goes to the courthouse steps because even though there might be money coming back, it's never rare. It's often not going to be what they could have gotten even just at a wholesale offer. In those situations, we do the best we can to just turn it within a couple days, junk out it as fast as we can. We're not trying to slow roll anything. We're not fixing anything. It's basically as is. And we get it done almost always. So if we think the house is worth, 550, we will list it for 495, 475, and we're literally trying to create a frenzy among the entire market, not just investors. Everybody's on board with what the plan is and why we must do that plan, and it works very, very well. I think, well, the one we just closed probably in like September, October. She actually just wrote us every single one of these guys writes you a glowing review, by the way. So your when I started this a couple years ago, I think my Google reviews were at like 78 or something. I think we're at like 135 as of this week. I mean, you don't have to fight to get reviews from these people because they love you. But anyhow, with that one, I think we had like 20 showings in 24 hours or something crazy like that and ended up with 5 or 6 offers. We were able to take the cash one, the quickest close, and you just nail it.
You
Uh,
had mentioned that there's an active leak. Would the repair on the roof be just a leak? What happens if an entire roof needs to be replaced?
so we actually had like 2 of those last year. Like 7 of the rooms had active leaks in the rooms. We're standing there dripping. And so we work with a roofing company that will take payment out of closing for the whole roof.
And then the last one was, can you please repeat the list of things in the report and the program you used?
Oh, it's called High Note, Highnote. Love it. It's like I think I pay like $13 a month. But it allows me to see when they opened it, how often they opened it, how much time they spent it. Are they spending more time on the net sheet area or more time on the homework area, etc. And I do the CMAs, the first section. Second section is the net sheet. Third section is the homework, whether we're doing it, they're doing it, etc. Sometimes they have to track down like a receipt or whatever. The next area is our reviews. Here's the reviews we have. And then the next area is like, this is our standard marketing plan to list a home. Um, okay. Here's the thing, you guys, working with attorneys is not, it's a long-term game. It takes 3 to 6 months just to get familiarity. You're going to take another 6 to 12 months to start building those referrals, and probably 2 years before you're getting them as consistently as like we are. It's not fast, it's not flashy, it's not social media driven at all. You're not gonna find them on social media other than their basic, company stuff they're gonna put out there often. But it's very disciplined, it's very ethical, and it really does compound for steady business. And the funny thing is when you start taking some of those practices and just applying it to the rest of your listings, it's incredible how people go, oh, wow, this is great. I didn't know you could help me with this or do that.
Angela, do you include a timeline for the seller to get homework done?
Yes. Yes, because there's usually a reason. Like, for example, here we have a lot of 55 plus homes. If their home is in a 55 plus location, I need that bad boy closed up, done deal by like April 15th. Because after April 15th, it's hot as heck here, and their potential of where we thought we could sell for is going to dramatically come down. Um, or whatever it is, we usually have a reason. Most of them do not want this to linger. They're not interested in having the home on the market for 6 months. They want to be done with this and they need the money, the proceeds, so they can finish paying off the couple little things that are potentially out there. So that's one of the reasons I love it as well.
Kind of like MMI, is there an attorney database to find out who's doing the bulk of probate work?
Oh, that was the one I was going to go back to. Thank you. I don't know about that. That's a great question. I'll have to ask one of my attorneys. Usually, if you go to, so this is what I was going to say. Every area has a bar association. So Phoenix, we have a association. I will tell you, I joined our bar association like my first year doing this with the divorce stuff before I switched gears. I don't advertise for divorce stuff at all anymore. I still get them just because the attorneys know, but I don't push that. Um, and our bar association is pretty lame. So I was like, okay, this is not great. Well, when I at the end of the year, I went to dinner with most of my attorneys just individually, went and got together with them. And I was asking one of them, I was like, hey, what's the deal with our bar association? Because I have a buddy in Utah who's a realtor, and I mean, he's very involved in their bar association. And he just kills it. I mean, and he's buddies with everybody. You'd think he's going to the Chamber of Commerce networking group, but it's all attorneys. And she said, yeah, ours here is not great. She said, but you can join. So each bar association has, maybe they specialize in this certain niche or this niche or that, but you can join. She goes, go and join the paralegal section. She goes, almost every bar association has a paralegal category. And as realtors, we can join as an affiliate. It would be no different than you lenders, that join the local associations for realtors as affiliates, right? So she goes, go join the paralegal section as an affiliate and sponsor like two things a year. You'll get to know them. That's who you want to meet and talk to anyway to get in the door, right? Is the paralegals. I will admit, she told me that in like the one that told me, she told me in December, we came out the gate in January just gangbusters with listings. So I haven't had a second to do it yet. But I would check your local bar association. They will have some networking events. They have opportunities where you can sponsor a few things here and there. Don't sponsor just to be in some magazine. If you're going to sponsor anything, it's to be face to face with people. And you shouldn't, I wouldn't spend big money on that part of it either. I mean, my entire budget, outside of meals for my attorney stuff throughout the year is, I don't know, it's probably under $750. Keep in mind I'm doing pop buys for anywhere from 5 to 10 attorneys' offices. I don't try and take on, I'm not trying to pop by 25 attorneys. My goal this year, because it's been so great, and they are a little bit more consuming on the work we do with them, in regards to the house getting it prepped and ready, is to bring on two new firms this year. That's it. It's nothing crazy. If I bring on two new firms and with my existing, we change that from 2 files a month every single month to 3 to 4. I mean, I'll take it. And I didn't have to work my tail off to bring in those additional firms if I'm only focusing on two. Okay. I think I hit everything. Does anybody else have any?
Guys, we just have a couple minutes left of our mastermind today. Any other questions for Angela today before I let you guys get out of here? Oh, we do have one new one.
Okay.
Are they open to spending money on staging?
So, if you really think it needs to have it, I will tell you, we do minor staging of all of our listings, kitchens and bathrooms, towels, and then some plants on the counters, things like that, for every single one of our houses, and we don't charge them a dime for it. So, and our houses move in a market that's not moving. I mean, we're moving, but we're sluggish right now in Phoenix. And so if you really truly think it needs to be done, but I think you're going to be in a better position, frankly, to just say realistically without staging, I would price it here, and they're going to be fine with just pricing at a lower price and not dealing with the staging and all the extra to try and they're not trying to increase the price to something crazy, you guys, usually. They just want to know what do I have to do to get on the market to sell at a reasonable price.
Angela, last question for the day. What do you put as information when you pop by?
So the regular monthly pop buys is just the same postcard with a different theme with whatever we've attached with it. Like one time we did a Tide pen. We had more people go, "Oh my gosh, that's such a changer for, the attorneys are always wearing professional stuff." So a little tchotchke item every month with a postcard. or if we're going to do an actual sit down, this is our first time doing a one-to-one, we bring a folder that has the CV in it and another page that has like our ethics and what we, just a couple pieces of paper in it, nothing crazy.
Well, Angela, we can't thank you so much for your time. Thank you so much for spending the last hour with us. Guys, if you
Yeah.
have any other questions that didn't get answered, please make sure your loan officer that invited you gets those to Rebecca and I. We can get them answered for you and get them back to the loan officer. And please remember our mastermind is the third Thursday of every single month at 12 o'clock Pacific Standard Time.
Yeah, if you need anything in Arizona or any questions I can answer direct, just or go through these guys, happy to help.
Thank you, Angela.
Thanks,
Thank
Rebecca.
you, everybody.
Thank-
Welcome. Bye.